Good morning, America. Breaking news. Rudy Giuliani's shocking claim on live TV.
The president reimbursed that over a period of several months.
Saying the president did repay his personal attorney, Michael Cohen, for that $130,000 paid to porn star Stormy Daniels. Just last month, Trump declared he knew nothing about it. Did he break the law?
Also breaking overnight, an explosion during a dangerous police standoff.
Blood standoff, multiple officers down.
Officers rushed to the hospital. The search is on for that suspect.
How did this happen? The new incident on a Southwest plane, a window cracking mid-flight, just weeks after that deadly engine explosion that killed a mother of two.
An ABC News exclusive. The two men arrested at a Philadelphia Starbucks now reaching a settlement. Why they only asked for $1 each from the city. And the program they hope will make a change. The interview only on GMA this morning.
And making it rain. Hundreds of thousands of dollars flying onto this highway when an armored truck bursts open.
Look at all this money.
Now what police are promising if you took that cash.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
And we do say good morning, America. This is like an episode of What Would You Do? If you came across this scene right here, hundreds of thousands of dollars on the highway, what would you do?
I know a lot of people did, possibly, but as they say, if it's too good to be true, it usually is, without a doubt.
We will have more on that coming up. There's some big breaking news overnight. President Trump is furiously tweeting right now about that bombshell from his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani.
He is one of the president's attorneys in the Russia investigation, and Trump did repay, this is what Giuliani is saying, he did repay his personal attorney, Michael Cohen, for the $130,000 used to pay off Stormy Daniels. Our chief national affairs correspondent, Tom Yamas, has the latest developments. Good morning, Tom.
Robin, good morning to you. It was a stunning interview last night, and now new evidence that President Trump did not tell the full truth about the money paid in a hush agreement to porn star Stormy Daniels. Overnight, the president's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, revealing in a live TV interview the president repaid his personal attorney, Michael Cohen, for facilitating that $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels to silence her about an alleged sexual encounter she had with Mr. Trump back in 2006, an apparent contradiction to the president's past claims.
I'm giving you a fact now that you don't know. It's not campaign money. No campaign finance violation. So
they funneled it through the law firm.
Funneled through the law firm, and the president repaid it.
Just last month, President Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One he didn't know about the payment made by his personal attorney, Michael Cohen.
Did you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels? Then why did Michael?
In a previous statement to ABC News, Cohen said he facilitated the payment using a home equity line of credit, that neither the Trump organization nor the Trump campaign were ever involved. But according to Giuliani, who was also part of the campaign, the payoff was well known.
Everybody was nervous about this from the very beginning. I wasn't. I knew how much money Donald Trump put into that campaign. I said, $130,000. He's going to do a couple of checks for $130,000. When I heard Cohen's retainer of $35,000, when he was doing no work for the president, I said, but that's how he's repaying. That's how he's repaying it, with a little profit and a little margin for paying taxes for Michael.
Well, guess what? That's fraud. That's illegal.
Stormy Daniels' attorney seizing on the bombshell interview.
I don't care where you line up. You should be disgusted by what has happened in connection with the lies that you have been told over the last 3 months about this payment.
The Justice Department and the Federal Election Commission already looking into how the payment was handled, but Giuliani adamant no major crimes were committed. And as we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, the president just tweeted about this moments ago. We want to put those tweets up now. He explains how he paid Michael Cohen, that it had nothing to do with the campaign, and he also makes a major announcement. He says he will enforce that non-disclosure agreement with Stormy Daniels, and he also says he is going to seek damages because he believes she has broken that confidentiality agreement.
So you got 3 tweets there from the president just a couple weeks ago. He said he knew nothing about this at all. Meantime, another major contradiction from Rudy Giuliani last night, contradicting the president's rationale rationale on the firing of James Comey.
That's right. There was so much news in that interview. There was another major headline, and this has to do with James Comey. In that interview, Rudy Giuliani also says one of the reasons why the president fired James Comey was because Comey would not say that President Trump wasn't a target of the Russia investigation. That's also another major contradiction from President Trump. His previous statements were that he tweeted just last month Comey was not fired because of the Russia investigation.
A lot to get to this morning. Thank you, Thomas Breen, our chief White House correspondent, John Karl, for more on this as well. Of course, John, Rudy Giuliani is the president's attorney. Had to have been some strategy there, but a lot of the rest of the White House blindsided.
Absolutely blindsided. As a matter of fact, one White House spokesperson was on television right after that interview and asked about it, said simply, "I am not an attorney, I just work at the White House." The White House has kept an arm's length arrangement from this, not trusting the president's denials on this and therefore not repeating them. But George, we do have some additional details about this arrangement with Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels and the reimbursement. According to a source familiar, the payments from the president to Michael Cohen began shortly after the president took office last week. Cohen had left the Trump organization and gone into private practice. The payments, we're told, were primarily to reimburse for the Stormy Daniels payment, but not only for that. There were other legal matters that Cohen was reimbursed for. Unclear what those were.
Right. They started last year after he became president. Yesterday, another big news on this front, the president bringing in a new White House attorney to deal with the Mueller investigation.
That's right. Emmett Flood, veteran of the Clinton impeachment, and out is Ty Cobb. I spoke to Ty Cobb right before the news of his announced departure, and right after. Ty Cobb was the person, George, on the president's legal team that was preaching cooperation with the special counsel. He was even saying nice things about Rosenstein to me yesterday. That is now over. It is essentially war now between the president's legal team and the special counsel.
Okay, John Karl, thanks very much, Robin.
And George, you bring up the investigation this morning. We're getting a rare look inside the Russia investigation. A witness who has just been interviewed by special counsel Robert Mueller's team, sitting down with our chief justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas. And he joins us this morning. Good morning, Pierre.
Robin, good morning. That's right. Something truly rare. Insight from a witness who was just interrogated by the special counsel's office. He said he was taken aback by the intensity of investigators and the fact that they're still focusing on Russian collusion. And he says they are nowhere near done.
Former Trump political advisor Michael Caputo, who helped in the early stages of the campaign from Trump Tower, says he won't soon forget the grilling he says he took from 2 FBI agents and a prosecutor with the special counsel's team.
3 hours plus, they weren't pulling any punches. At some points in time, it got kind of frightening.
Caputo says the agents knew so much about his life, it scared him.
They know everything. Pierre, they know more about what I did in 2016 than I do.
What were the investigators after?
They're talking about the timing of some things that happened at the campaign and at the convention. I think they're completely focused on collusion with Russia.
According to Caputo, there was a lot of focus on the hack of the DNC by a Russian operative known as Guccifer and WikiLeaks, which published the stolen information. This is his stark assessment on whether Mueller is anywhere near done investigating possible collusion.
I'm hoping this ends soon, but it sounds to me like they have more digging to do.
Did they give you any sense that they have anything?
I believe that they think they're onto something. What that is, I don't know, but they're not messing around.
Caputo says investigators peppered him with questions about his friends. The president's personal attorney, Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, who's been indicted on money laundering charges, and the president's longtime friend and advisor, Roger Stone. The one thing he says surprised him from the interview?
It was remarkable to me that the president wasn't brought up. Nobody with the last name Trump came up at all.
Caputo said he knew Mueller's investigators would come for him because he's lived and worked in Russia. But he said he saw no collusion. He said all these investigations are destroying his family, and he's really angry at Congress. He said he told Senate investigators in a hearing this week, quote, "Damn you to hell." George?
Okay, Pierre, thanks very much. Lots to talk about with our legal team. Dan Abrams is here, also Chris Christie, federal prosecutor before serving as governor of New Jersey. And Chris, let me begin with you. So Rudy Giuliani was asked last night about the dossier. He responds, talking about Stormy Daniels, makes it seem casual, but this is strategy.
Of course it is. You know, there's an old saying in the law, hang a lantern on your problems. Right, so he comes in, he knows that there's been different stories being told about this payment and how it was made.
Not just different stories. The president said he knew nothing about
Well,
it.
those are different stories, right? So the fact is that Rudy has to go out there now and clean it up. That's what lawyers get hired to do. So he goes out there and he puts it out rather than having some reporter give breaking news that the president reimbursed it. So it's a typical thing to do, and it wasn't surprising at all.
But it also shows you that they know Mueller knows this. They know, in particular after the raid of Michael Cohen, that Mueller knows exactly what happened with that payment. They also know that Mueller knows why Donald Trump fired James Comey. They've talked to a lot of people who were there at the time. And I think at this point they're saying, let's get this out there. So when it comes out later, just as Chris says, where it's not going to be a surprise, it's not going to be news, let's just put as much out there as possible.
Meantime, the president and Rudy Giuliani both are saying this shows there's no campaign finance violations. Not necessarily.
Well, yeah, but George, I've always thought that was a weak case, no matter which iteration of the story you were going on. I think Bob Mueller is looking at much bigger things than that. And when you look at the questions that he put out, I think it backs up what I think both I said and I know Dan said too, which is you can't let this guy be interviewed. You cannot let the president be interviewed. And you look at that list of questions and without follow-ups. That's 10, 12 hours of questioning there, easy. And, you don't want to expose your client to that.
The challenge legally on the question of a campaign finance violation is, can you prove that it was done for the purpose of influencing the campaign as opposed to protecting him from Melania, right? Finding out
the big question
about it, right? By the way, he's still denying that he even had an affair with Stormy Daniels. What's sort of shocking is this morning we're seeing in the tweets that he's still denying the affair, yet he's admitting he repaid Michael Cohen now for the amount through Rudy Giuliani.
Right.
So to some degree, the entire story makes even less sense.
And the problem is that the motivation for it, whatever it was, is all subjective. Right? You're not going to see a memo, an email from Donald Trump saying, I'm worried that this will hurt my campaign, so pay her the money. Okay? It's a subjective thing, and it's just as easy for people to believe that he didn't want his wife to know if there was some affair.
Right, but one thing that's not subjective is Michael loan did this. It's a loan to Donald Trump. Donald Trump did not report that on his financial disclosure. That's another vulnerability as well.
If it's determined to be a loan.
If it's determined to be a loan, and you don't know that that's what it would be.
What we're also seeing now, and John Carl brought it up in his discussion, you've got now Emmett Flood in there. You've got Rudy Giuliani in there. Going to your point, this is clear now that Donald Trump does not want to talk to Robert Mueller.
And I think it goes beyond that. I think he wants to go after Robert Mueller, right? He wants a legal team who are going to be his spokespeople, not just who aren't going to necessarily cooperate, but who are willing to attack and undermine Robert Mueller, because up to now that has not been the position of his attorneys.
Yeah, George, listen, I've been saying for months that he had a below-grade legal team, and that everything that was going on, including waiving of certain privileges, not only on the president's behalf, but on behalf of people who worked in the White House, was an awful strategic decision. And now what he's got in Giuliani and in Emmett Flood are two very experienced warriors. Flood having been through it with the Clinton situation, and Rudy Giuliani having been through enough wars himself to know how to fight them.
A lot more to come. Thank you both very much, Michael.
All right, thank you, George. We're going to turn now to that military plane crash in Savannah, Georgia, that killed 9 people on board. A surveillance camera capturing the moment a Puerto Rico National Guard plane went down on a busy highway. President Trump tweeting his condolences, saying, "Please join me in thoughts and prayers for the victims, their families, and the great men and women of the National Guard." The military is investigating the accident. Also making headlines, another scare on a Southwest jet, this time a window cracking mid-flight, forcing the pilots to make an unplanned landing. This incident comes just 2 weeks after that engine explosion that killed a mother of 2. ABC's David Curley is at Reagan Airport with the details. Good morning, David.
Morning, Michael. That incident 2 weeks ago on the mind of all those passengers on board that Southwest aircraft, especially when they heard a loud noise yesterday. This crack in a jet window,
there was a loud pop,
sent shivers through the Southwest 737.
All the seats around the window just kind of, they ran away, the people on the thing, and it was cracked through.
It was less than an hour into the flight from Chicago to Newark when this window cracked.
You were on a plane and you saw the pictures of what that window looked like.
I mean, freak anybody out.
The pilot's deciding to divert to Cleveland to have that window checked, but many on board immediately flashing back to that incident just 2 weeks ago when a window on another Southwest jet broke, partially sucking out a passenger who was pulled back into the jet but did not survive. While this jet with the cracked window is 20 years old, this window had been replaced in the past and was inspected just last month. The jet did not depressurize. That's because the windows are layered, 2 structural panes and the one you touch inside. This crack appeared to be on the outside layer.
So the passenger sitting next to that window really wasn't in danger, but I'm sure the loud bang and the thought of, oh my gosh, is that window going to let go? I'm sure that was a scary situation.
The Boeing 737 has been flying for 50 years. This, we are told, is only the 27th time that a window layer has cracked in flight. So this is rare. Passengers were not at risk, but the closeness to that other incident, which is still unsolved, reminds us all that nobody likes a mystery when it comes to flying, Michael.
You're absolutely right about that. Thank you so much, David. Robin?
Okay, Michael, now to those severe storms tearing across the heart of the country. This morning, nearly 40 million are in the storm zone on alert for tornadoes, huge hail, and damaging winds. Our Gio Benitez is in Raytown, Missouri with more. Good morning, Gio.
Hey, Robin, good morning. Listen, this is a very old red oak, 200 years old, and I want you to see what it's done to this house. Just take a look at this. It fell onto and into this house. A family of 5 was inside. Incredibly, they are okay, thank goodness, but some scary moments for the middle of the country.
It's on the ground. It's on the ground right now. Tornado on the ground.
Millions in the heartland bracing for more powerful tornadoes. Blaring sirens, ringing out, warning residents in the Midwest of possible twisters in the area. On the ground in Kansas, pounding rain, low visibility on the roads, and overturned semis.
Oh, there she goes. Woo!
Destruction from the storms stretching up north, too. Thunderstorms in Indiana sending this tree crashing into the family's kitchen. And in Illinois,
the roof, it came off the building.
Roofs offering no protection. Watch this roof. It's ripped completely off and sent tumbling down onto the street below. And back here live, we're just learning that there's a new severe thunderstorm watch in effect now for parts of southern Oklahoma and northern Texas. So if you're there, just be very careful. No doubt a rough day ahead for you. Michael?
All right, thank you, Gio. Be careful indeed. Yeah. We're going to go to Rob. And Rob, that severe weather, it stretches from Texas to Massachusetts today.
Yeah, really widening out. This is day 4 of our severe weather outbreak, and this is one of 6 tornadoes that dropped down yesterday in Frederick, Oklahoma. Not just that, but big winds across a wide stretch. They had 106-mile-an-hour winds here, and in Pratt County, Nebraska, 92-mile-an-hour winds. There were 6 states that reported winds over 70 miles an hour. We had damage in places like Chicago, places like Missouri, and there's where you see the storm. This morning, we've got a new thunderstorm watch out for the Texas-Oklahoma border there. A number of tornado-warned storms have been posted there, and flash flood watches earlier today from the storms that were rolling through Chicago. A lot of heavy rain with this. We had some heat, tropical moisture, heavy downpours, feeling like summer. And here we go again today. Kansas City, you're in it. But look at this. The Northeast as well. Cleveland back through parts of upstate New York and New England. With all the heat that's been building here, could see some strong thunderstorms too. Time now for your Sunny Cities. Brought to you by CarMax.
You can now reserve a car online, and CarMax will hold it for you up to 7 days for free. You come in when it's convenient. I know this because I'm from 7 days in the future. Now, don't be frightened. 7 days in the future is a glorious place. After all, you had 2 good hair days in a row. Perfect. Right out of bed. And this car you reserved at CarMax.com is still being held for you for free. Pretty sweet. Or, as we like to say, from 7 days in the future, we still say pretty sweet. It's basically the same.
A warm start this morning, but hey, we're hot by noon again, and it's going to be mainly dry across the area. Could have a little isolated shower well north and west up around the Maryland-Pennsylvania border, but 91 by 3 o'clock this afternoon. We stay with that heat through the afternoon hours, and then another 90-degree July kind of day for tomorrow as this wave of heat continues. It breaks on Saturday, Sunday, just that high 73 degrees. Showers for both days, so your Cinco de Mayo will be a little wet morning and afternoon.
Want to show you something special. The Steamboat Geyser, the largest in the world, most active, now beginning to erupt. Hasn't done that in a long, long time. You know, Old Faithful gets all the glory, but we want to make
Equal time. Yeah. Thanks for that, Rob. Coming up, we have that ABC News exclusive. The two men that were arrested at a Starbucks in Philadelphia, sparking nationwide protests. Well, they now have reached a settlement with Starbucks. They also reached a settlement with the city in which they only asked for $1 each. What they hope to bring about and change, you'll see it here on GMA.
To most, he's Phil Mickelson, pro golfer. To me,